Hey everyone, it's Ben Hardy here, and in today's video we're going to be talking about the all-new 2023 Toyota Sequoia. So obviously we recently went over the new Sequoia, but this was before it was officially announced. Now we have the official specs on the Sequoia, and it's actually pretty exciting. So in the first part of the video we're going to go over the specs, then we're going to get into why this really matters, my thoughts on it, and then we'll sum things up. Let's get into it. Let's get into the specs with this all-new Sequoia. So first off, it's going to be a 2023 model year vehicle. You might have a chance to get one at the end of 2022 as a 2023, but most of the deliveries will happen in 2023. Now, the first thing that's super exciting about the Sequoia is going to be the powertrain. It's going to have one powertrain option, and that is going to be the iForce Max, is what Toyota has dubbed it. So it is a twin-turbo 3.5-liter V6 as paired to a hybrid system and a 10-speed automatic transmission. It puts out 437 horsepower and then 583 pound-feet of torque. This powertrain is available with the new Tundra, but it's an option because the standard powertrain with the Tundra is that twin-turbo 3.5-liter V6 with no hybrid component to it. So it's pretty cool that they're just making it standard on the Sequoia, and it kind of makes sense because most people that buy Sequoia seem to buy the higher up packages, and also it's going to be a lower volume seller, and so giving people different powertrain options would kind of make things confusing. So it makes sense that they're like, you know what, we're just going to include the craziest powertrain as standard and make things easier for the buyers. Now, the new Sequoia is going to be built on the same platform as the Toyota Tundra. Now, in my first video, I talked about how the Sequoia will most likely have independent rear suspension because that's what the previous generation did. That's not what's happening. It's actually going to have a solid rear axle, which is pretty interesting because most vehicles in this segment are built off of truck platforms with independent rear suspension to kind of help out with the ride quality and all that. But they're not doing that with the Sequoia, and I'm guessing that that is to make it a little bit easier to produce, right? And it was a little bit easier to engineer. But aside from that, like I said, same platform, and so it should ride super similar to the new Tundra, which I think is great because the new Tundra with the 5-link coil suspension in the back end is just a super smooth riding vehicle, and so this new Sequoia is going to just do fantastic. Now, from a trim package perspective, there's going to be actually quite a few different packages. So first off, you're going to be able to get an SR5, so it's kind of like the base model package, a limited, platinum, Trd Pro, and then capstone is the fully loaded package. So the SR5, right, again, that's going to be your base model, interior and everything, just like the SR5 Tundra. Like all these packages are the same as what you have in the Tundra for a reason, to make things easy for Toyota from a production standpoint. And you'll be able to get a Trd Sport package built off the SR5, just like with the Tundra, that gives you the Bilstein dampers, right? The sporty looks, and it's a little bit lower compared to the regular Sequoia, and the sporty wheels and everything. And then you'll also be able to get a Trd off-road package just like the Tundra on the Limited, for example, is one of the trim levels you'll be able to get that on. And again, the Limited literally, everything you guys have seen with the Tundra is being carried over in the Sequoia from an interior perspective. Just it has a third row, right, because it's an SUV. So all of the interior updates, all the stuff with these packages, from the Limited to the Platinum to the Trd Pro to the Capstone, it's all the same as what you're going to see, as what you've seen in the Tundra, basically. So it's going to have, digital gauge cluster in the higher up packages. It's going to have the 12-inch display in the higher up packages, and all of that. So if you, I guess, want a sneak peek to the Sequoia, just go look at a Tundra in person if you can obviously find one. Now, in terms of pricing with the Sequoia, it's going to start at about $50,000 roughly, which makes sense. It's starting more expensive than the Tundra because it has the more premium powertrain. And then fully loaded, it's probably going to be around $70,000 to $80,000 after options and everything, which again makes sense, right, in terms of pricing, because that's right in line with the Tundra and all that. But I guess the thing that I'm most excited spec-wise with the new Sequoia Sequoia is the Trd Pro, right? This Trd Pro is going to be identical to what you have on the Tundra, but it's going to be a third-row SUV. And so, yeah, not only does it look really cool, but it's going to be super practical from an off-road perspective. And it sounds like Toyota's going for this kind of new theme with their lineup where, obviously, there's a lot of similarities with all of the vehicles, but it's not like they're bad similarities. So I think that Toyota's doing a really good job, and I'm excited to see where the brand goes in the next few years with everything they're updating, because like the old Sequoia, just man, there was a lot with that, where it wasn't necessarily the best looking and super outdated with everything. And so this new one having all of the modern stuff and looking really cool, I think it's going to pull a lot of new buyers. Now, I guess that'll get into the opinion section and why this matters and everything. So first off, obviously, trucks and SUVs are becoming more and more popular as time goes on. And full-size SUVs are super popular, right? Because you've got the practicality of being a people mover, because you can have so many people in them, right? Having that third row and having a third row that actually has space is super important. And then also they can tow as well, right? They've got a really good towing capacity, and the Sequoia will be right up there with, Chevy Tahoe, Jeep Wagoneer, all that kind of stuff. So it's super practical from that perspective. And then, now with a Trd Pro package that's, really like true to the Trd Pro name, it's actually going to have some off-road capability like the new Tundra Trd Pro. And again, with the new suspension setup in the rear that it's sharing with the Tundra, it's just going to do fantastic. I'm really excited to take one off-road when I get a chance. And so, yeah, I think this is great. I know some people might not be a fan of the new Sequoia because of the styling, right? It looks so similar to the Tundra. That being said, I don't think that the Tundra styling looks bad. I think this looks really good, especially the rear end of the vehicle. It kind of reminds me of the LX600 from a rear end perspective. It seems like they kind of copied that a lot. And the front end looks super good. And I also think that what Toyota is doing with this new Sequoia is they're trying to replace the Land Cruiser here in the U.S. market, because we can't get a Land Cruiser here in the U.S. market. But with this Sequoia, right, it's built off the same platform as the Land Cruiser. It has really cool aesthetics, right? It looks just like the Tundra. And it kind of, again, the back end especially looks like the LX600, so it's kind of like Tundra mixed with Land Cruiser in a sense, because the LX600 is just the Lexus version of the Land Cruiser. And then again, it's going to actually have solid off-road capability. So this is going to be sort of a replacement for the Land Cruiser, but just with a different name. And I think that Toyota is trying to clean up their lineup, and so that's why they're doing this, right? Instead of having two third-row off-road SUVs, they're just going to have one, and it's the Sequoia for the U.S. market instead of having the Sequoia and the Land Cruiser. But yeah, I think that I'm excited for it. I think that they've nailed it. I think it looks great stylistically. The interior, judging by what they've done with the Tundra, I think is going to be great. It's not necessarily the most modern and the nicest compared to other competitors in this segment, but for Toyota, it's really nice, and we know that it's going to be super reliable and super durable over a very long period of time. And so even though it might not necessarily be the most modern in the segment, it's going to be super reliable. And so yeah, I want you guys to let me know what you think about this new Sequoia, what you think about the aesthetics, what you think about them only going with one powertrain option versus offering multiple powertrain options. And then, styling, all that kind of stuff, like everything about the new Sequoia. But as always, if you're stopping in for the first time, I'd really appreciate it if you subscribe. And if you guys want to suggest future topics for this second channel, then just put that in the comment section down below, and I can cover that with the channel. And yeah, I'll see you guys.